The Ford Motor Company was established in June 1903. It sold its first automobile in July, made a profit in its first year, and later expanded overseas. But it took time for that to happen. It has a lot more to it, and you won't believe it. So, tune in until the very end to discover what we have in store. American business tycoon and inventor Henry Ford founded the Ford Motor Company. He created several vehicles, most notably the Model T car, and forever altered the auto industry by bringing the moving assembly line to the process of building cars. The name Fordism eventually came to refer to the mass production and consumption that his industrial breakthroughs made possible, which subsequently more widely typified the pace and nature of the capitalist economy of the post-war era. Ford was a significant business figure who also had a significant personal impact. Throughout his lifetime, he published several books that reflected his opinions on business, society, and innovation. Sadly, this effect also had negative aspects. He assumed control of his local newspaper, the Dearborn Independent, in 1922. For many years, he wrote and published a series of anti-Semitic articles titled The International Jew, in which he used Jews as a crutch and asserted that they were plotting to take over the world. After being accused of libel, Ford later issued a formal apology about the series. Henry Ford was the oldest of 6 children and was born in Springwells Township, Wayne County, Michigan, now a portion of southwest Detroit, in 1863. His father, an Irish immigrant, moved to Wayne County, New York, in 1847. His mother, Mary Ford, was born in Michigan as the youngest child of Belgian immigrants. Her parents died when she was a child and she was adopted by neighbors, the O'Hearns. His father gave him a pocket watch when he was 12. At 15, Ford dismantled and reassembled the timepieces of friends and neighbors dozens of times, gaining the reputation of a watch repairman. Ford was devastated when his mother died in 1876. His father expected him to take over the family farm eventually, but he despised farm work. He later wrote, "I never had any particular love for the farm. It was the mother on the farm I loved." He later left home to work as an apprentice machinist in Detroit. In 1879, he served an apprenticeship in Detroit before working for a while in southern Michigan fixing steam engines to launch his professional career. He briefly had a small lumber company and sold lumber from his father's property, but by 1891 he had a position as an engineer at Thomas Edison's Detroit-based Edison Illuminating Company, who would go on to mentor Ford and become his lifelong friend. He was chosen to serve as their principal engineer in November 1893. Clara Jane Bryant, whose father was a farmer from Wayne County, with Henry Ford in 1888. Edsel Bryant Ford, their first and only child, was born in 1893. Ford created his first internal combustion engine in 1893, which had one cylinder and burned gasoline. The vehicle, which he completed in 1896, would subsequently be powered by an engine. A kind of horseless carriage, the quadricycle had 4 bicycle wheels, a 4-horsepower motor, and could only move forward, not backward. Ford joined the Detroit Automobile Company as one of its founders in 1899 after leaving the Edison Illuminating Company, but he departed the company after just a year since the business failed around 18 months later. Ford established the Henry Ford Company in 1901, which later changed its name to the Cadillac Motor Car Company, and then left once more after roughly a year. Ford had been developing several racing vehicles in the interim, and they proved to be quite successful in terms of winning races and even setting speed records. The Ford Motor Company was established in June 1903. It sold its first automobile in July, made a profit in its first year, and later expanded overseas. When the renowned Model T was first released in 1908, 15 million vehicles had been sold, breaking previous records for auto sales. The Model T, sometimes known as Tin Lizzie, had a significant appeal to the general public because it was dependable, affordable, and simple to repair. The Model T factory and the introduction of the moving assembly line mode of production in 1913 changed the auto industry and manufacturing as a whole. Even though the Model T could be produced on a moving assembly line in about 90 minutes, the workers detested it. Due to the new production methods need that workers complete their tasks before the vehicle can proceed further down the production line, work has become monotonous and repetitive while also being closely timed. Many employees departed to work for rival companies. Due to the significant turnover, Ford created the $5 day in 1914. $5 was twice what a factory worker could expect to make in a day at the time. Ford also shortened the shift to 8 hours, down from the previous norm by an hour. Despite benefiting the workforce, Ford was also able to operate 3 shifts each day, greatly increasing the effectiveness of the factory's operations. Henry Ford established the 5-day workweek in 1926 and closed his operations on Saturdays and Sundays as a result. After the initial upheaval, these changes proved to be remarkably competitive in the modern labor market, giving the business a substantial hiring advantage and ultimately improving employee retention and quality of life, in part by making Ford's cars affordable to their own employees and providing employees with more free time. In 1919, Henry Ford's son Edsel took over as head of the Ford Motor Company. He bought out his investors the day he succeeded as the company's president, and he continued to be one of the company's sole owners alongside his wife Clara and Edsel. But after his son passed away in 1943, Henry Ford again became the company's president until his grandson, Henry Ford II, took control in 1945. Ford, however, had a setback during the first construction of his first car, which came before his breakthrough. Due to Ford's meticulousness, his investors withdrew their support, and in his first 2 business endeavors, he was unable to secure stable financial backing for the automobile. Ford nevertheless applied the knowledge he gained from these setbacks to guide his future success as an inventor and a businessman. Ford required money to start work on improving the quadricycle, a prototype for a car after it had already been developed. However, the capital was hard to come by. Ford persuaded William H. Murphy, a Detroit businessman, to support his car manufacturing. This union gave rise to the Detroit Automobile Company, but issues quickly developed. A year and a half after the business started operating in 1901, Murphy and the shareholders started to grow restless. Ford aimed to produce the ideal car, but the board was disappointed with the outcomes. Soon later, the company was disbanded. After his initial failure, Ford adjusted his strategy. He understood that the success of his earlier automotive design depended on meeting a variety of customer wants. He persuaded Murphy to reconsider, which was unusual in the early 20th century. Their second business, the Henry Ford Company, however, struggled right away. Ford believed Murphy put him under pressure to get the car ready for production and created a false expectation from the start. Ford departed the company shortly after Murphy hired an outside manager to oversee his approach, and everyone wrote him off. These 2 disasters might have ended Ford's career, but he persisted. Ford met Alexander Malcolmson, a coal mogul with a risk-taking mentality, a few years after the second split with Murphy. Ford received complete production control from Malcolmson in 1904, the year the Model A was shown. Failure did not stop Henry Ford from innovating. Rather, it gave him the motivation to refine his ideas for a technology that would ultimately change the world. Ford did not create the assembly line, but he revolutionized it by stealing the conveyor belt and production methods from other sectors like the meatpacking industry. The car was physically produced as it traveled along the manufacturing line, eliminating the need for personnel to move about the plant and the vehicle while it was being built. Increased income, more free time, and access to the reasonably priced Model T are frequently mentioned as factors in the development of America's middle class. The term Fordism refers to the post-war era's frenetic speed of mass production and consumption, as well as the influence of Henry Ford's industrial achievements. Ford was a prominent pacifist during World War I and provided finance for the Oscar II, a ship that sailed to neutral European nations to mediate and advance peace. Ford's pacifism, meanwhile, had a concerning manifestation in terms of his greater worldview. He bought the Dearborn Independent in 1918, and in 1920 he began publishing several anti-Semitic articles. These articles continued over the following few years, and they were eventually published in 91 issues of the newspaper. The newspaper campaign blamed everything he came to despise, from modern music to economic upheaval, on Jews and made them the victims of World War I. Ford went to tremendous lengths to publicize and take part in anti-Semitic discourse, even though his opinions may have appeared to be grounded in his own situation and the xenophobic climate in late 19th and early 20th century America. He published a 4-volume bundle of the essays under the title The International Jew, printed 500,000 copies, and sold part of them on subscription. The protocols of the Elders of Zion were also reproduced by Ford in the Dearborn Independent. Ford published the story as though it were a true report, despite the knowledge that it was a fabricated document that purported to uncover a Jewish conspiracy to rule the globe. Given Ford's notoriety and the fact that the Daily was distributed through his network of dealerships around the nation, the journal had a much wider audience and greater influence than it otherwise would have had as a small-town publication. Even in the 1920s, he was a potential contender for the American president. Aaron Shapiro, a Jewish-American activist, filed a libel lawsuit against Ford in 1924 concerning an article Ford had written and published in the Dearborn Independent. Ford shut down the journal just before the trial and reached an out-of-court deal with Shapiro, paying him monetary compensation and releasing a formal apology written by a mediator and Lewis Marshall, president of the American Jewish Committee. Henry Ford received awards from a number of significant business associations in 1946. Ford co-authored numerous books with his friend Samuel Crowther throughout his life, including My Life and Work, 1922, Today and Tomorrow, 1926, Moving Forward, 1930, and Edison, As I Know Him, 1930. His opinions on industrialism and society were discussed in Moving Forward.
Ford passed away from a brain hemorrhage on April 7, 1947, in Dearborn, Michigan, at the age of 83.
Today, the Ford Motor Company is the world's fifth largest based on worldwide vehicle sales. From the quadricycle to making some of the best, finest, and surely some of the most expensive cars in the world. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more inspiring business stories. Stay blessed.